everyone, it's Teresa and I am here with 3 awesome farmhouse projects for you. The first one up is using my no measure method to make a toolbox. You're gonna love it. Stick with me. The first minute is a little weird, but don't worry, we're gonna get into the real DIYing part. Just stick with me through the project and you'll be so happy you did. Let's jump into it. So first, I kind of eyeballed how tall I wanted my box to be and made a cut. And then I took that piece and lined it up on the long board and made another cut to make them even. Now I'm going to take the spindle that is actually going to be my handle and use that to measure out the sides. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but stay with me, guys. And I'll make that cut. I'll take the piece that I just cut and lay it back down on the board, and then I'm actually going to take the 2 end pieces that we did in the first part and line those up so I know where to cut, and this is going to be the base of the actual toolbox. In case that was confusing, I'll have it all listed down in the description box too. So what I did here is I actually stained the sides after I made like a 45-degree angle cut in them. I didn't show it, I'm sorry. And then those are actually going to be the front and the back, which I cut that part in half. Also did not show it. I'm sorry. And then that's the base. I will link a video below where I actually show you the wood burning torch situation that I did there. Same idea, just a different project. Now I've got some glue that I've put, obviously some wood glue that I've put on the bottoms of the kind of like house-shaped pieces. And then I'm going to clamp them down, and I'm going to do that to both of those pieces onto the base. This is like the bottom part of our toolbox. And I hop on the struggle bus when it comes to putting this all together because there's clamps everywhere and all that. But it's all right. You know what? It happens. It works. It gets it done. And through a little YouTube magic, here it is. They're clamped. They're good. They're not moving. Now we're going to do kind of the same thing with our sides, our front and back, if you will. These probably have names and I don't really know, but this is kind of what I'm calling the front and the back. Same thing, wood glue on all of the pieces that are going to touch the other pieces. And then you guessed it, we're going to clamp that down as well. When you're doing this, be mindful of where the end of your little clamp is in case it makes it easier for you to put it somewhere, you know, where the little metal part is coming out, because I had a little bit of a problem with that. And basically though, we're going to do that the same thing on the other side. I was just checking to make sure it fit the way I thought it was supposed to fit. It's a little on the looser side, but I'm okay with that. I'm going to end up putting some nails in this anyways. So since it's a little on the looser side, I am going to add a little bit of my Starbond glue just to kind of give it a little something to hold on to. And then I think oh, I'll just take the clamp off and put it on the other side. No, not really. Put the clamp back on where it was and go get one out of the garage. Now that it was all clamped all together, I took my clamps off once the glue kind of set up a little bit, and I'm going to start adding in my nails, obviously, because you see me nailing in some stuff. Now I'm going to put in a part top and bottom. This is obviously the sides where it's like the house-shaped piece. I am going to do top and bottom on here just so I have kind of a couple of different points that it's kind of touching. Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Anyways, I'm going to do that on both of those, and then I'm going to do it on each corner on the bottom. I didn't show it to you because I had to take it out to the garage, but trust me, they're there. And I take it out to the garage because I have a little thing to put it on top of, like a sawhorse. That's the word I was searching for. Now I'm going to put in my handle, and it fits like a glove. Don't mind my head. It happens, right? I put some wood glue on it, and I am just working it on getting it exactly in the right spot that I want this little thing to go. Now, if you can't tell, obviously I've already painted it. I just painted that in the Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. We're going to do more to it though. Don't worry, we're not done yet. And then we're going to add the monster clamp to this one. If you don't have clamps, it's not the end of the world. You can always kind of put it up, do piece by piece. You don't have to necessarily do it all at one time, and just put something heavy on it to kind of try to keep it stuck together. If that makes sense to you, hopefully it does. I went ahead and did the same thing. I put some nails on the ends of those as well. If you're expecting to use a lot of weight bearing, you might want to use a screw instead of nails. Now we're getting to the real fun, and we're taking some white wax from Folk Art, and I'm adding it pretty generously to the spindle. Now I only did one coat of the chalk paint, and it's working perfectly. I could not be more excited, I tell you what. So what it's doing is we're putting the wax on. We're doing like, you know, the Miyagi stuff where we're waxing it on and waxing it off. You guys knew there was going to be a reference to that eventually. What we're doing though is we're putting it on there and it's giving it a very ashy, like a white cast. Perfection. And then is also wiping off some of the paint. Even more perfection. And then I wanted to go ahead and give it kind of a consistent look. So on those darker pieces that are stained, I went ahead and added some white wax on, wiped it off. And if it felt like it had some spots that were a little bit too much of the white cast, I went ahead and just took a little bit of antique wax and added that on. I mean, wax on top of wax on top of wax, right? There's nothing better. Anyways, so I ended up doing a little bit of it on the handle as well, just to like make sure everything kind of ties all together. Now, you know, we're not done with the antique wax, because it wouldn't be my channel if I didn't have it in more projects, right? And I'm taking this and actually just kind of brushing it on to the sides. I felt like there was too much contrast between the part that's charred and the part that's not. Now, again, like I said, I did this wood burning pretty much with a blowtorch. I'll link a video below on a project where I showed doing this. The day that I did this, it was like 30 degrees outside, and y'all, I live in Florida. That's too cold for me. All right, so once we're done with all the waxing, we're still not done with the waxing. I'm actually gonna kind of like dimmer down some of the shininess from those nails because I'm like, look, this is Rustic, it's Farmhouse. No way these nails would be this shiny. So I take a little bit of paint, white or plaster or whatever, and I'm just saying whatever because it doesn't matter what it is. And then I'm taking my antique wax and I'm just going to brush on a little bit on top of that. The antique wax doesn't really like the metal, so you kind of have to give it something to like latch onto. Once you do that, it's kind of got that little bit of like a rusted look, so it's perfect. And here it is, all styled, and I cannot be more in love with it. I think it's perfect. Perfect for spring, perfect for anything. All right, guys, I'm going there. This is a little splatter guard thing from the Dollar Tree. I've had this thing forever, and I'm like, oh, I have an idea. So I take the lid off, you know, and I definitely brought like that, you know, I'm bringing the big tools to the little fight. And I just thought, you know what? I have it handy. That's what I'm using. I'm going to take some of my Mod Podge and I'm just going to start brushing it all along the edge on the rim. To be really honest, I have a blue line going on it because I used it to get a circle on a project like forever ago and totally forgot about it until I noticed I have a blue mark from my Sharpie. It's okay. We're going to kind of cover it up. And then I'm going to take cinnamon because why not? I've heard a few different channels doing this and I was like, you know what? I've never done it. I'm going to try it. Made my room smell really nice. But I'm just going to start dousing it with some cinnamon onto where that Mod Podge is. And it's going to give us a faux rust. Now I have done where I've actually used like a solution that actually makes rust because it uses iron, powdered iron, but I didn't feel like getting it out. Again, it's cold outside. And I don't trust doing it inside. That's a whole nother story. Anyways, I take my fan brush and I start kind of trying to brush it on, and I ended up with probably more cinnamon on my little fan brush than I did on the side of this. But it's right. It was a big mess. But I just kind of went with it. The cinnamon is still sitting here next to me looking at me like, why haven't you put me back in the kitchen yet? But I will, I promise. I'll put it back in the kitchen where it belongs. All right, now we are going to put some stuff on the front part of our little screen, and we're going to just do a quick coating, really messy coating of that plaster colored chalk paint from Waverly. You know I love it. And then, you know I love this too. We're going to take some antique wax and just kind of give it a little bit of a distressing down, and I'll be really honest, I need to go back and probably fix a couple of places of paint on the actual like inside parts of those letters. You can't see it here, but trust me, it definitely needs to be fixed, but it's okay. I'm gonna do it later. Now, are you starting to see what I saw in my mind? It's going to be amazing. And you could totally do something really cute for this for like Easter if you have like a little chick cut out or a little bunny cut out. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be home sweet home. These words, by the way, came from Hobby Lobby. I'm adding some Star Bond and the like quick set adhesive spray stuff to it to try and get it to adhere to the screen. The screen isn't very thick. There's not a lot for it to adhere to. So I keep trying. I'm like, okay, this is going to work. I'm going to make this work. So I pull out some wood dowels and I'm just going to trim them down with my little miter shears, add some glue, and start using that and gluing it down to the words. I liked the idea of doing the little dowels just because they're a little bit thinner, a little easier to do with like this kind of lettering. If you did a wood cutout or something, you could totally do popsicle sticks. It would work the exact same way. I might have to do something similar with a little wood cutout for Easter. I think it would be adorable, especially if it's like a little chick or a couple of chicks. I've got an idea. You'll probably see it soon. Anyways, once we're done with that and it's dry, it dries really fast if you have the Star Bond. If not, you could totally do, you probably even could get away with doing hot glue because it's kind of the wood on the wood, not necessarily the wood on the metal screen. I get a couple little picks of boxwood, trim it down, and I'm going to just use a little bit of twine to kind of hold it together. This way, if you see it, it's not a big deal because you'll probably see it a little bit. And if it was a zip tie, I didn't want it to, I didn't want you to be able to see it if it's a zip tie. And now I've got just some really pretty ribbon. This, believe it or not, is like fall ribbon from Joann's. And I looked at this and I was like, this is pretty neutral. I don't think I would go so far as to call it fall. And then I decided I didn't like that bow. And then I went ahead and made another bow. And it's pretty much exactly the same way. It is more of like just your regular like shoestring kind of bow. And then I'm going to make some little dovetails on the ends just to make it a little extra fancy. Totally don't have to do any of that if you do not want to. I will take the same ribbon. Oh, hold on. We're going to glue this down first. And disclaimer here. When I did this, it didn't really stick very long. I had to redo it. I ended up doing it with hot glue and it stuck pretty well. I did not have any problems getting it to stick. Just as an FYI, it did just fine for me. See, I was going to do it with hot glue and that little hot glue gun was not ready for me. So I just went with some more of that little adhesive and we're just going to fix our little tails so that they're not in the way. And then we'll add a little bit of more ribbon on the back to make it our little hanger. It's super cute. It's super farmhouse. You could totally do this for spring. You could do it for anything. I think it's really cute for spring, but I definitely think you could get away with using it all year long. And you could even add different flowers and things like that if you wanted to make it a little more perfection for spring. But right now, it's perfect for any time of the year, which is kind of what this video is. It's perfect for this time of year. Once it's done, we're done. Here it is. Sweet as can be, right? All right. I'm in a weird mood today. Can you tell? I have this really cute rolling pin. It's got a big old crack in it. I actually got it from another YouTuber. I bought it off of her site, Upcycled by Bree. I'll list it below if you want to check it out. She's got lots of fun stuff. I didn't care for the blue. The blue just it was not working for me. It wasn't calling my name, which is crazy because the blue really would have worked fine for like a springtime kind of stuff. But like I said, it wasn't working for me. So I just sanded it down. It came off really easy. She uses a really nice chippy paint and it chipped off just perfectly. I went ahead and just did a quick coating of the same Waverly chalk paint in the color ink. And now I'm taking a mixture of the folk art wood tints. One is the color walnut, one is the color gray. It's probably a little heavier on the gray side because the walnut is rather pigmented. And I'm taking it with just a cloth and going through and basically staining it. For lack of a better word, I'm staining the wood. I guess we could say I'm tinting the wood since I'm using wood tint. But I wanted to deepen it up a little bit. I don't have a lot of lighter colored things like lighter colored wood in my house. I guess other than technically my kitchen cabinets, they're pretty light. But anyways, I thought I wanted it a little darker, make it a little, almost like a little dirtier, a little dingier, if you will. And then I got to the edge and I was like, well, I need something to get in there. I don't want a whole big area of lighter colored wood. That would look silly. So I got this little spatula thing. You can actually find them at the Dollar Tree now in the crafting section, and kind of got in there underneath the handles just to make sure it looked all the same. Once we're finished with that, you know what's happening. We're getting some of the white wax, and I'm going to do basically the same thing that I did on our spindle. Now, the spindle itself is a lot more of like a finished piece of wood where it's definitely got a glossiness to it, whereas these handles do not. So it didn't just pull off the paint like it did on the spindle from our first project. So I am taking a sanding block to sand it down a little bit, and then I'll add a little bit more wax back in just to kind of finish it, make sure that it is got the same consistent like gloss or not gloss, the same amount of sheen, I should say. And then I'll do the same thing to the other side. And I do probably distress this one a little bit more, just, I don't know why. It just ended up happening that way and I liked it, so I kept going. And just be careful, you know, when you're doing your distressing that you don't end up taking off every last little bit of the paint. I came pretty close on this one. I was like, okay, you need to stop now. And I had actually a couple little pieces of the blue that were coming through, so that is why I kept picking at it, because I didn't really want the blue to come through on the handle, so I just picked it off and I made it work. Once we're done adding in a little bit more of the wax, and you can seal it, you don't have to seal it. Obviously, I'm not going to use this for food. There it is. It's done, and I'm just going to set it all up together and make this adorable little vignette of beautiful farmhouse creations for you. I absolutely love all of these projects. I hope you do too. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know if you're new here, if you like these videos. This was my little bonus for you guys. That's why it's a little bit less projects than normal. But I will catch you back here very soon with more projects, and I can't wait to show you what I've got planned for the rest of the month, and even better next month. And I will catch you guys next time.